important that the individual understand himself. So that we understand the concept of why I do what I do, the way I do it. Important. And I understand it because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about how I do it because that's my thinking preference. I'm comfortable there.
Hi there and welcome. In this video I am with Bertie Le Roux and we are again talking about unrealistic expectations, and this is the second video. We want to discuss a different context. Bertie, let's talk about unrealistic expectations in the workplace as it relates to a boss, a manager, etc. Again, the question from me is, if you have unrealistic expectations of someone that might not have had the training appropriate to what you want them to do, or that's in the wrong place, or that's doing something that they didn't apply for, am I setting them up to fail?
Once again, absolutely. I can start off by saying, quite often, we fire people for exactly the same reason we employed them. And you'll find it a strange statement. But in motivating that statement, I'm saying that companies will employ people to do things in certain positions or fulfill certain positions where they either got a scarcity or they've got ineffective people, and they are looking for different kind of people. But at the end of the day, you appoint people like you. And this applies to big organizations as well, because at the end of the day, I might, as the leader in the organization, CEO or managing director, sit in and appointing of certain people, but the decision end up with a first line manager, supervisory level. So they appoint people that they think they can deal with from an emotional perspective. In other words, I appoint people like me because that's easier. I understand myself, so I can manage people like myself. But you are appointing somebody to do a job or some work that you don't like. So if you appoint somebody like you, that individual very soon will show the same signs that you have shown of disliking that position and sort of not doing it. And that's what I'm saying. You appoint people for the very same reason you fire them, because you're appointing them like you. You must appoint people to the position. So that's your first call. Appoint them to the position, and secondly, appoint them to the company. And when you talk about appointing to the company, have in mind already a person that can follow a career path in your organization. Because then you would appoint them to a specific application, expecting that they will be able to grow because you can see the potential in them. But if you appoint them like you can end up with the same problem because they don't like the same job as you. Who's going to do the work then? Point number 3.
You often do brain profiling with staff from an HR point of view. Do you suggest people do that before they actually appoint someone or after they appointed someone?
Absolutely, yeah.
Often we do this exercise after the fact when everything is already a mess.
We must understand that in labor law, and I will talk out of the perspective of South Africa, from a labor law perspective, getting rid of somebody, in other words, firing because they're inefficient, is becoming more and more difficult. Because at the end of the day, as I've just alluded to, you've appointed them to a specific position, expecting them to be good at it, because you appointed them. Then you found that they're not good because they're just like you. Now you want to get rid of them. But the labor law says, train, retrain, reskill, upskill. So it's very difficult, therefore, to get rid of people that is in a wrong role, in a wrong position. So how can we manage that risk? We can use the brain profiling. Now there's a lot of profiling. Because I'm a brain practitioner, I'll probably speak mostly from my perspective as a whole brain practitioner. That you must understand who you're interviewing. Because you can interview, and in some cases there's telltale signs that you can actually very much say the guy's left brain or right brain. But there's actually 8 dimensions, 4 quadrants, left 1, left 2, right 1, right 2, and then there's 2 dimensions in each of those quadrants. So there's 8 dimensions to look at. So it becomes difficult when you sit across the table interviewing somebody. You tend to focus more on task and less on whether the person will fit into your culture. And that's a story for another day, culture. When you do the brain profiling, the suggestion is go through your shortlist, create your shortlist, and then you do a brain profile on all of them. And most people, if not all, I have found, is very happy to do it. Because if you do their brain profile, then you can say, we're doing the brain profile for 2 reasons. To make certain fit for purpose. And secondly, that you have a profile of yourself so that you understand wherein lies your strengths. What's your preferences? So you can go out and look for jobs that suit your preference. Because that makes it much easier, even in interviews, etc., etc. So the understanding who am I and why is critically important. So people that on the shortlist is happy to do the profile. You can do the profile because you cannot, it's not a psychometric test. So I cannot use it against somebody, okay? But I can use it in support of my decision of who to employ and who not. So that you can put the square peg in the square hole day 1. So let's get back to your question. A question about how important is profiling. And as I said, there's different forms of profiling. So you don't necessarily just have to go for the knitting brain profiling in terms of the whole brain thinking. There's different ones that you can apply. But the concept and idea after it is for management leadership is to understand the individual. Yes, it's also important that the individual understand himself. So that we understand the concept of why I do what I do, the way I do it. Important. And I understand it because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about how I do it because that's my thinking preference. I'm comfortable there. But in understanding myself, my why, I understand very much your why. Why do you do what you do the way you do it? Or why do they do what they do the way they do it? And that point is important for management or to understand and leadership, that when we communicate, because remember, there's 2 key elements in any organization. We talk about relationships and communication. Those to me are important principles. Forget about ethics and value and all those kind of things. But the efficiency in the organization comes through relationships and communication. And to be effective, I must first understand that individual. Why does he do what he does the way he does it? That's important to understand that. And then secondly, because I now know, I can communicate in his language. Language meaning left brain, facts, figures, right brain meaning more emotive, more emotion, and more pictures, color, music. It's different. It's something different. So if we talk from that language, from that right brain to the left brain, there is inefficient communication because the other party must translate the message to his way of thinking. So the picture to the left brain means you must try and understand my picture, convert it to facts and figures so they can understand it. Okay, and if he or she talks from a facts and figure point of view to me as a picture person, I'm lost. And if you go back to earlier video clips of mine, or we might even do some new ones, understand that difference. So the importance therefore, the communication is critical. Because if you don't understand that you need to, for effective communication, speak the language of the other individual, then I've got effective communication. But I must think about it. It doesn't come naturally. I must think about how am I going to communicate with that individual. And the question that often with leadership tells me, but I can't write a proposal for every single person. I can't write an email for every single person. All I'm saying is just understand the concept of whole brain thinking. So if we then use the proposal, if you write a proposal to me as a right brain person, I will only read the introduction and the executive summary. And I'll base my decision on that. I'm not going to read this pack of content. I'm not interested. But if you give 2 pages, 3, 4 pages, which is what I was comfortable with to make a decision. If you give that to the left brain individual, he's not going to make a decision because he needs that to formulate his decision. So therefore your proposal is whole brain if you have an executive summary and so forth. So you must make certain that you do that. Then you ensure the thinking and the application of the individuals within an organization. And the moment you do that, as we started off by saying square peg, square hole, and you employ people to the company, not just to the position, because you want the individual to grow. So understanding the profile, you will understand the guy's tendency and desire and need to grow and expand. So that's important. So that relationship through understanding my profile, pressing the right button, and secondly communication to make certain we are effectively communicating. But I want to use an example, share with you an example. I was sitting in a boardroom once with senior execs of an organization. And during the course of the morning, I think, one of the execs that sat next to me turned to me and asked me and said, listen, how do you get rid of the mavericks in the organization? Can you believe it? How do I get rid of the mavericks in the organization? I said to him, there's 2 things you're going to do. I said, the first thing you do, you go down on your knees and you thank God that you gave you those mavericks. I say then, and the second thing you do, you let them lose. Because those are the thinking, those are the people that's going to take you beyond your comprehension of the future of this organization. We need the mavericks. We need the people that think differently. So we need an element of R1, brain thinking, in other words, intuitive strategic thinking, and we need an L1 component of understanding the concept of realism and the analytical part of the analysis that you need to do. So those are also the L1 and the L2 as a rule of thumb is normally the kind of leadership. So if you interview somebody and you appoint somebody, you're looking for L1 and R1 because you know those are potential future managers in an organization. And that's all from a brain profiling, and it's all from understanding the concept of unexpected expectations. Where what we think we need, what we should apply is not in sync. So understand that is not what I need, is what the organization needs and what's best for the organization.
Thank you. Do you have a question for the audience?
My question is just for management, understand the importance, as I say, of relationships and communication. And therefore understand the need to understand each of your employees from top to bottom. So we need to share those kind of things with one another, and that will give you an efficient company, because I can only support you if I like supporting you.